Thomas is a passionate and energetic ranger who has recently started working in the national park. His passion for nature and animals was present at an early age, and he always dreamed of doing just that. Every day Thomas looked forward to new adventures and opportunities to help the park's residents. The national park where he worked was home to many animals, but there was a particularly strong population of African lions. Since there were about 30 lions in the park, Thomas felt a special responsibility for their health and welfare. Early one morning, Thomas took a jeep ride through the park. Set off to patrol the territory, the sun rises over the horizon. As it began to rise, the sky turned soft pinks and oranges. The air was fresh and cool and filled with the scent of wild plants. Thomas's route passed through a rocky area where one of the lion prides lived. These rocks were perfect for the lions. The place was a hiding place, a shady resting place, and provided a lookout for hunting. As Thomas approached the rock, he spotted a pride of young lions playing on the edge of the cliff. Their creeping jumps and chases made the ranger smile, but at the same time worry, especially for inexperienced animals. He knew how dangerous it could be. Suddenly, Thomas saw the rock begin to crumble beneath the feet of the playing lions. The ranger's heart began to beat rapidly as he realized the approaching danger. He hoped that the adult lions would call the cubs off the cliff in time. An older lion, sensing danger, stood up and began to howl loudly, yelling at the young lions to get off the cliff. However, the young lions, who were engrossed in their play, did not immediately respond to the warning and saw that their call was being ignored. The older lion looked at the cubs with determination. His powerful roar finally caught the attention of the playful lions, and they began to retreat from the dangerous edge. But it was already too late. The heavy adult lion's movements caused the last drop of rock to break away from the precarious cliff edge. Thomas took the young lion with him. Thomas watched in horror as the lion crawled from the cliff. Fortunately, the animal managed to get its claws to the edge of the rock, but the position was very dangerous. Without help, the lion could not last long. There was no delay. Thomas grabs the radio and provides support. He quickly explained the situation and called for immediate assistance. The ranger knew he had to act, or the lion would fall to the rocks below. Making a decision, Thomas immediately got into his jeep and headed for the cliff. They needed to chase them away and make the rescue operation safe. Honking loudly and steering the jeep, Thomas hoped the noise and movement would scare away the predators. To his relief, the tactic worked. The herd began to retreat and climb down the cliff. I gathered my attention as soon as the last lion was out of sight. Thomas jumped out of the car and ran to the edge of the cliff. Looking over the edge, the ranger saw the lion clinging desperately to the rock. The animal made pitiful sounds, its claws slipping on the stone. Quickly returning to the jeep, Thomas took out a strong rope from the trunk. He began to untie the rope, thinking of the best way to tie up the lion. At that moment, Thomas heard the long-awaited sound of the jeep approaching. His companion arrived. Without wasting any time, the rangers immediately got to work. Together they created a rope system and began lowering one end onto the trapped lion. As the initiator of the rescue operation, Thomas took on the most dangerous part of tying the lion down. They held the rope as they cautiously approached the edge of the cliff. The lion seemed to understand that people were trying to help him and showed no aggression. Its golden color was full of fear and hope. After great difficulty, Thomas was able to wrap the rope around the lion's body. Twisting his instincts, he spoke softly. To my surprise, the lion understood. It appeared to calm down and allow him to tie the rope. Once the lion was securely secured, Thomas signaled to the other rangers to begin pulling it up. This was a difficult task. The weight of the adult lion was very heavy, and the unstable surface of the cliff made the task even more difficult. The rangers slowly lifted the lion, pulling with all their might. Thomas encouraged his companions and the lion, understanding that the animal's life depended on their cooperation. Every inch was hard-won. They did not give up. Finally, in just a few minutes. After hard work, the lion's face was cut into a cliff. It appeared on the edge. After a few more pulls, the animal reached solid ground. The exhausted lion lay on the grass, panting and breathing. The rangers retreated, giving the lion more space. Everyone did so except Thomas. Driven by an inner impulse, the young man remained close to the animal. He slowly knelt down next to the lion and made direct eye contact. At that moment, a spark of understanding seemed to fly between man and beast. The lion showed no aggression and only looked at Thomas with gratitude. The ranger looked at him carefully. I started to untie the rope, and the lion allowed it without moving. When the last rope was untied, the lion slowly stood up. He looked at Thomas once more and let out a low growl, but it was like a cat's meow, and slowly walked back to his flock. The rangers watched this scene in amazement and marveled at the bonds formed between people and wildlife. After this incident, life in the park returned to normal. Thomas often thought of the rescued lions. He hoped to see them up close again but knew the chances were slim. I knew it had been months. The monsoon season is here, a time for which rangers have always anxiously awaited. The ports bring with them the threat of flooding and landslides, which could cause serious damage to the park's residents. One morning, during a particularly heavy rain, Thomas was patrolling his area. Visibility was poor. The Jeep's wipers couldn't keep up with the stream of water running down the windshield. The ranger moved slowly, carefully looking out for animals in danger. Suddenly, Thomas saw a large fallen tree ahead, which caught him off guard, and he stopped the Jeep and ran out into the pouring rain. Came out with Jackie's hood on his head, the ranger headed towards the tree. How many small animals might have been left homeless by the fallen tree? Ars was so absorbed in his own thoughts that he didn't immediately hear the sound getting louder. When he finally realized it, it was already too late. Looking back, the ranger saw a huge wall of mud and debris rushing towards him. A huge landslide was coming right at him. Terrified, Thomas tried to get back to the Jeep, but soon realized he could not. The only refuge was a fallen tree. Run towards it, climb up as high as you can, and his legs gripped the tree tightly. A moment later, a wave of ooze washed over Thomas. He felt a powerful force trying to tear him away from the tree. The ranger clung to the tree with all his might, praying that he could withstand nature's attack. First, as the waves subsided, Thomas found himself buried beneath a thick layer of mud and debris. Fortunately, small air pockets had formed around his face, allowing him to breathe. But the ranger still knew the situation was very dangerous. Thomas tried to move. But I realized I was almost completely unable to move. The dense layer suggested his movements. The ranger tried to remain calm, knowing that panic would only make the situation worse. As time passed, Thomas began to worry. He said he was helping his colleagues deal with the aftermath of landslides throughout the park. He knew it would be busy. How long would it be before someone noticed his title and started looking for him? Suddenly Thomas heard a noise overhead. He thought he saw movement through a small opening and a flash of sand-colored fur. But the ranger could not have imagined it. I thought there was a lion here. The sound got louder and louder, and Thomas felt something heavy moving on the mud right above his head. He held his breath and didn't know what to expect. Would another landslide throw him away completely? But instead of more mud, Thomas felt the pressure on his body. He felt it starting to shrink. Someone or something was clearing him from above. The ranger heard a spine-chilling roar and then a human voice. Thomas tried to shout, but his voice was too weak. But the rescuers were to find him. It seemed like he knew. Soon the ranger saw a light and was able to take a deep breath of fresh air. When Thomas was finally pulled out of his chair, he saw an amazing sight. Next to the rescuer was a huge lion covered in fur. He was the one who saved it somehow. The lion found the spot where Thomas had been buried and began digging. This action caught the attention of the other rangers, and they rushed to help. Thomas couldn't believe this miraculous rescue, something he had once helped. Now the lion returns the favor. It was an amazing expression of gratitude and may have been the beginning of a lifelong friendship between people. After this incident, the lion no longer avoided people in the park. Thomas often saw the lion while on patrol, and each time he saw the lion, filled with mutual respect and understanding. A look was exchanged. This amazing story of mutual help between humans and lions quickly spread throughout the park in the local language. It was an example of how kindness can overcome any boundaries, even between humans and wild animals. Many people who heard this story were deeply moved and saw the relationship from a new perspective.